discussion after. All right, there you go. So I guess everyone is already here. So we got an ample number of participants. So let's move on to the next part. After discussing the cash discount and trade discount, the next thing that we're going to discuss is on how do we account for our inventories, or how do we determine the values of the inventories? So we have two methods of that one. So we have our first in, first out, our FIFO method, and we have our weighted average method. So our LIFO method, or last in, first out, is no longer used and it's already obsolete. So let's move on to the example. So I guess you already know what it means by FIFO. So it means that the goods purchased are the first item that you sold. While I think it will be a lot easier for us to understand if we'll be having an example, okay? So let's just have an example so that it will be beneficial for everyone, okay? So the first thing that I want you to understand is we have this table. Not every time that you are given a table. Sometimes they will be giving you a paragraph, so you should know what information to pick. So we have the following information chronological from January 1 to 31. So we have our beginning balance. So when we say units, this is the number of units that you could sell. But when we say unit cost, this pertains to the cost price, the price of the items that you are selling. But how do we get our total cost? So we get our total cost by simply multiplying the units to our unit cost, all right? And of course, we have our sales. So if we have 800 units in the beginning, and we have sold something 500, would it reduce the inventory that we have? The answer there, of course, would be yes. So 800 minus 500. So therefore, we only have 300 left. And every time that we will purchase, so again, we have our unit cost. All right, so we have our unit cost here. So therefore, it will increase our inventory. And kindly notice that our unit cost is different from time to time because it only reflects that the value of our inventory changes over time. Do you get it? Raise your hands. There you go. I think everyone got it. Fantastic. All right. So let's first dig in with our FIFO. So under FIFO method, we are going to discuss both the perpetual and periodic. So I want you to be really attentive because the computation of the two are kind of different for this one. So we have our perpetual, then we have our periodic. All right, so I think I interchange it. So let's go first with our periodic one. Okay. So the first thing that I want you to do is, so step number one. So step number one is for you to figure out how much is the ending inventory in units. So let's just put an acronym on that one. So that would be ending inventory in units, or EIU. Okay, that would be help in facilitating our class later on. So the first thing that you have to do for step number one is to identify how many units could we actually sell. So we have our date. Let me just format that for you. Then we have our units. Then we have our unit cost. And we have our total cost. So again, let me just test you if you understood what I have described a while ago. So we have our January 1, all right? Then we have our January 18. Then we have our January 31. So again, we have our 800. Then we purchase 718, January 18. And we purchase another one on January 31 for 500. So I'm just going to transfer everything in here. So what I'm going to do now is to get the information from January 1 and transfer in the following table. So I get 800. So I got this 800 from the units. Then we have our unit cost of 200. Let me just put a peso sign on that one so that it will be easier for you to understand that that is actually a price. All right. So we have Philippine peso. Okay. So how do we get our total cost? We get our total cost by simply multiplying the two figures. So we have 800 units times 200 pesos. So that is equivalent to, hold on, let me just tinker that. All right. And so we just simply multiply that. So how do we get the 160,000? 800 times 200, 160. Did everyone got that? Raise your hands. There you go. So now we get the information from January 18 as well. So 700, we're just going to do the same. So that would be 210. Again, we multiply the two. So 700 units times 210 pesos. So the total cost of the 700 units is 147,000 pesos. Then the next thing that we have to do now is, of course, to identify how much is the January 31 purchases. So we have 500, and this is for 220. All right, so we have 220. How do we get the total cost? Again, we just simply multiply the two. So 500 times 220. So if we sum all this, so we get all the total of this. Oops, hold on. Someone said, raise a question. Yes. All right, well, I'm not asking yet. So, and anyhow, thank you for the information. So that is 417,000. And we have to identify how many units, but thank you for that. All right, so we have, okay. So let's just think on that for a bit. Okay. Mm-hmm. So what do you call this 2,000? That is actually your total goods available for sale. Do you still remember that one? The Tigas? All right. So the next thing that we have to do, if this is the number of items that we can sell, how many items have we sold? So we have sold the following. So we have sales on January 8th. So we have sales on January 8th. So this is 500. Then we have a sale on January 22 as well for 800. Okay, let me just move this for a bit. I'll just move it. So if we have sold 500 and 800, so therefore we must have an ending inventory, but in units. In units. So how much is our ending inventory? So that would be 2,000 minus 1,300. So therefore we have 1,700, or rather 700 units left. Okay, so our EIU. Did everyone got that? Raise your hands. There you go. So let me just check that once again. Okay, so now let's move on to step number 2. So step number 2 is for you to identify how much is the ending inventory cost. So that is the first thing that we have to identify now, okay? So I want you to focus on this one because this is kind of tricky. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy the information from the first step down here. Then I want you to be sensitive on the details, okay? So let's have, so where did I get all this? So again, we got all this from our table. So we have January 1, 800, 200 pesos, 100, that would be 160,000. And we have 700, 210, so that 147,000. And we have 500 and 220, so that would be 110,000. But what we're going to do now is to analyze, all right? Remember, this is first in, first out, right? So this is FIFO, okay? So this is FIFO. First in, first out. So it means that the first item that we have bought is the first item that we will sell, okay? So again, the first item that we have bought rather, is the first item that we will sell. Okay? Did everyone get that? Raise your hands. All right, there you go. So remember we have sales. We have sales on, we have a sale. When is the first sale? The first sale happens in January 8. So we have January 8 sales. So how many units is the sales in January 8? So the answer there is 500,000. So we have 500, or rather 500 units. 500 units. So if I'm going to ask you right now, for the January 1 inventory, how many inventory is left? So how many inventory is left? So that would be 800. We sold already 500. So we have to deduct this. So that is 500 minus 800 minus 500. So that is 300. What is actually left as of January 8 for our January 1 inventory. So as of January 8, how many inventories left for the January 1? So we still have 300. Did everyone get that? Raise your hands. All right, fantastic. So now let's move on to the next sale. So we have sales amounting to 800. 800. So now I'm just going to update what is left. So inaalam natin kung ano na yung natira. So as of January 8, we still have 300. Okay? And for January 18, ilan pa yung natira? So what is still left? We still have 700, right? Because the first item that we have sold will be applied first on the first item that we have bought. Did everyone get that? Raise your hand. There you go. So yung 500 na nabenta natin, na-apply siya una sa 800 units kasi siya yung unang binili. Siya kasi yung unang dapat maibenta. And ang natira na lang is 300. What is left is 300. Then for January 31, how many inventories still left? We still have 500 kasi hindi pa naman siya nabebenta, right? Then guys, we have now our we have our second sale. So our second sale happened on January 22. So we have, oops. So we have January 22. So how many units were sold? So we have 800 units. Am I right? So 800 units were sold. So I'm just going to put it on the top. Hold on. I think I could hear someone. I'm just going to mute you all again. There you go. Mute all. There you go. Okay. So how many units were sold on January 22? So we have sold 800. But again, this 800 must be first applied on January 1 inventory first. So saan una ma-apply muna yung 800? Dapat dun muna sa January 1 inventory. Did everyone get that? Raise your hands. All right. But the question is, ilan na lang ba ang natira from January 1? So ang natira na lang is 300. Tama ba? So that is the first item that must be applied first. Dapat yun muna yung una nating i-apply. Alright? So ibig sabihin, our sale of 800 here will be first applied on January 1 inventory. So how many inventory is left? The inventory left there is 300. Do you get me? All right. So the first inventory that will be applied is 300. Okay? Nasusundan niyo ako? All right. So I'm assuming that you all. So ibig sabihin, let us compute that one. Sir, we only have 300. You told us we sold 800. So ilan na lang yung kulang? So we have 500 left. So how do we get the 500? 800 minus 300. So again, the 300 was taken from the inventory that is left from our January 1 inventory. Did everyone get that? So ibig sabihin, sir, the second inventory will be applied on the January 18? Yes. So it will be applied on the January 18 inventory. All right. So as of January, oops, hold on. So as of January 22, how many inventory is still left? So let's figure out. Okay. So now, for our January 1, inventory, nabenta na ba tong 300? Yes. Nabenta na out of the 800. Because kasi yung first 300 ma-apply sa January 1. So ilan na lang yung natira as of January 22? 0. Then for our January 18 inventory, ilan na lang yung natira? So 700 minus 500. Yes. So tama ka. That is 200 left. All right. Yes, you were right, Alisa and Eric. So what is left for the January 18 inventory is 200. Then, ilan na lang yung natira for the January 31? May nabenta ba tayo dito? We didn't sell anything yet, right? So ibig sabihin, 500 pa din siya. Then let's try to identify how much is the EIU. All right, someone sent a question. Yes. So what I want you to realize is, how much is the EIU? Have we computed this a while ago? Yes, we have computed it a while ago. if you will see, we have the same information here. So 700 here and 700 here. But the question is, how much is the total cost of the inventory? Kasi ayun yung hinahanap natin, di ba? Our EIC. So let me just put an acronym on that one, EIC. So how much is our EIC? So therefore, the first thing that we have to do is to get all the unit cost. All right? Kinuha ko lang yung unit cost. Unit cost for January 1. For January 1, how much is the unit cost? 200 pesos. For January 18, how much is the unit cost? 210. For January 31, how much is the unit cost? 220. Then we have to get our total cost. So our total cost is simply, again, we just multiply 0 times 200. So that is obviously 0. 200 units times 210 pesos. That is 42,000. 500 times 220. So therefore, that is our January 31 inventory. So how much is the cost of the inventory? So therefore, our inventory is equivalent to 152,000. So this is our inventory as of January 31. Did you get it? So this is our EIC. Did everyone got it? Raise their hands. Perfect. There you go. So how would this appear in the exam or in your quizzes? So we have to answer two questions. The first question is, how much is your ending inventory? You already know how to compute it under periodic. So this is FIFO periodic. Okay. So the second question is, how much is the cost of sales? So the second question, question number 2, how much is your cost of sales? So this is pretty easy since we already have the ending inventory ready. So let's now compute our beginning inventory. Beginning inventory. How much is our beginning inventory at cost? Beginning inventory is 160,000 here. So we have 160,000. Where did I get this one? I got it from the table. All right. So 160,000 here. Then we have our purchases. We just simply add all our purchases from January 18 and January 31. So our inventory is 147,000 and 110,000. So we just simply add that. So 147,000 and we have our 110,000. Okay. We have to add the two. All right. So if we add the two guys, this will be giving you the total goods available for sale. So 160,000 plus 257,000. So that is 417. Do we already have, hold on. Do we already have our January 31 inventory? Yes, we have computed it a while ago. So we have 152,000. So we get that information, 152,000. So what do we do with our ending inventory? We less it for us to get the cost of sales. So our cost of sales is equivalent to 265,000. Let me just format that for you so that you won't be confused. There you go. Did everyone got that? Raise your hand. Okay, there you go. I think everyone got it. Oh, someone sent a message? There you go. Okay. So now, that is under your perpetual method, or rather under your periodic. So let's now compute under your perpetual. So under your perpetual method, we have to maintain a stock card. So again, for our, what do you call this? For our periodic, you just have to simply make an analysis and identify first how much is the ending inventory in units. Then step number 2 is for you to identify how much is the ending inventory at cost. All right. So under our perpetual, so let's try that one. So under perpetual method, it's just kind of the same, but what we're going to do, important for you to know, we are going to maintain stock cards. So what you're going to see right now is how to prepare a stock card, okay? I'm just going to make a format and then I hope that you would be able to follow through. So we have our date here. So I'm just going to copy the information from this table to our Excel. So we have our units, then we have our unit cost, then we have our total cost. But this will be directly attributable to only for your purchases, all right? Then we're going to do the same for your sales. But this is for your sales only. Then we have our running balance. So we have balance. So let me just divide that. I'll just divide this so that it will be easier for you to understand. Yep, let's divide that one. There you go. So we have 3 columns, as you can see. So we have a column for purchases, we have a column for our sales, then we have a column for our balance. When we say balance, this is the running balance of the inventory, okay? So let's account first for our January 1. So our January 1, so how much inventory do we have? For January 1, we have, yes, we have 800. We have 800 on hand. So again, I'm going to transfer the 800 here to our Excel. So we have 800. Then we have 200 pesos. So let me just format that for you again so that you won't be confused if it's pertaining to a peso value. Okay. So format that. Okay, and format it here. There you go. So we have 200 pesos. So multiply. So how do we get our total cost? We get our total cost by simply multiplying the units to our unit cost. So 800 times 200, oops, that is already too much. There you go. Okay, let's just do the same for the others. And for this one too. All right, so now, so we have 800. So we only have 10 minutes left, okay? But let's just finish this one. So again, we're just going to carry forward it to the balance. So do we have 800? So how much would be the balance on January 1? We will just simply transfer the 800, similar with our 200, to our balance. So I just transferred it in here. So as of this date, magkano yung inventory? The inventory is still 800 at 200 pesos, and the total cost is 160,000. Did everyone get that? Raise your hands. Okay, I just simply transfer the information. Then the next information that we need to find out is the January 8 sale. So we have our January 8 sales here. So we have January 8. So we have, so which column are we going to put the sale? We are going to put the sales under the sales column. So we're going to put it under the sales column. So we have 500, but Again, since this is FIFO, how much cost should we allocate it first? Since we bought 800 at 200 units, we will sell it at 200. We will sell it at 200 because we are on first in, first out. And since we have first bought the 200 pesos at 800 units, we will first allocate sales at 200 pesos. So how do we get our total cost? We simply multiply the two, the units times the unit cost. And then in the running balance, we have to compute. We have to compute as to how much is our, how much is left. How much is left? So guys, in the beginning, we have 800. Then we have sold. So how many is left? So 800 minus 500. So that is 800 minus 500. So that is 300. But how much should be the unit cost? The unit cost is equivalent still 200. There you go. 200. And how do we get our total cost? Yeah, we just simply multiply the two. 300 times 200. Did everyone got it? Raise your hands. There you go. Pretty easy, right? So let's move on to our January 18 purchases. So we have our January 18 purchase. So for our January 18, we have purchases. Which column are we going to put it? We're going to put it under our purchases column, okay? So we're going to transfer. So we have 700, 210, and of course, I'm just going to copy the format here to here. All right. So we just simply multiply the two, 700 times 210. So now if I'm going to ask you, how many inventory do we have? So we have 1,000 units. So that is from 300 plus the 700 units that we have here. So guys, do you have any question? You could type in your question in the chat box. Is it clear, everyone? Raise your hand. I just simply transferred the information. This is the remainder for your January 1. For this column, this is what is left for January 1 inventory, 300. This is the 700 is for the January 18 inventory for 210. Okay? Then the next thing that we have to do now is, yep, someone sent a message. All right. So the main reason why we have include this together in one row so that it would signify that these are the inventory that we have on hand. Ito na yung meron tayong inventories. 300 plus 700. So ibig sabihin, as of January 18, ilan pa yung inventory mo? Meron kang 300 at saka meron kang 700. Did you get it? Did that answer your question? Mm-hmm. All right, there you go. So nilalagay lang natin siya dito sa column na to para malaman natin na, we still have 300 pala coming from January 1. And meron pa tayong inventory coming from January 18. Kaya natin siya pinagsama kasi we cannot add the two kasi they have a different cost. All right? All right. Then we have our sales on January 22. So again, saan natin lalagay yung January 22 sales? Under the sales column. Our sales column. So we have 800. So we have 800. But first, kailangan natin malaman kung saan natin i-allocate yung 800. So we will allocate it under 300 and 700, under 200 and 210. So what is the first item that we have bought? We first bought the 300. So kasi nga, first in, first out. So the 300 first will go to the sales first. Mabebenta siya muna. So ibig sabihin, let's just put a color here. So this is green. So let's put blue. Okay. So saan siya unang ma-apply? Doon sa 300. Kasi nga, siya yung unang binili. 300. But how much? 200. So we multiply the 2. Eh sir, meron pang kulang. Kulang pa tayo ng 500. So the 500 will be allocated to the 700. Okay? So magkano siya? Magkano mo siya ibebenta? At 210. So that would be at 210. So we multiply this. So now, what we have now to identify is how much inventory is left on hand. So for the 300, ilan na lang yung natitira? 300 minus 300, 0 na. So magkano siya? 200. Multiply mo siya? 0. Ilan na lang yung natira para sa 700? 700 minus 500. So that's 200 unit. That is how much? 210 pesos. And then we just simply multiply the 2. So 200 times 210. Yes, so that's 42. Okay. Says you were right, 42,000 na lang yung natira. Pero we have another purchases. We have purchases as of January 31. So on January 31, saan natin lalagay yung purchases? Under the purchases column. So we have purchase of 500. Magkano daw siya? 220. So how do we compute that? We just simply multiply the two. 500 times 220. So that's, what do you call that? 110. So again, we will sum that up together in one column. So ilan na lang ba natira for the January 18? So that's 200. So that's 210 and 42. Then we copy the information here. January 31. Oops, hold on. We copy the information down here. So that's 500, 220, and we have 110. So ilan na lang yung inventory mo? So we have 700. If you will go into sum this up, 500 plus 200, 700. Magkano din to? 42 plus 110. So that is 152,000. Okay. Do you have any question? And I want you to realize is that what is the ending inventory? The ending inventory is 100